Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperatives, LI Cadre. I'm Stephanie Kidd. Miss Brenda Combs is here today with us, and we are going to talk about some of the things that you might need to know in the next upcoming month. So we're going to talk about important dates, and then we're going to talk about strategies that you might need to use. So KDE dates. Miss Brenda, I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, and we talked about this, Stephanie and I, we're only going to go to October the 1st because we don't want to overwhelm anybody. But August the 28th has already passed, and we already know that. So it says that the alternative KSA overview and attainment task combined trainings, they have released those. So they released those on the 28th. On the 6th of September, they had some VI orders that was due, and they did that through the Windows part. So it probably didn't pertain to you unless you had a visually impaired child. And on September the 8th, that's the CWE certification qualification quiz that opened. So I don't know if you have taken that or not, but it's available for you to take. And then the 29th, it's the last day to have changes on Infinite Campus before that final data file is pulled from KDE to check and make sure that everything is okay. And then we have October the 2nd. That's your TAR, the TAR. I think everybody probably knows the TAR. Training and administration, it begins on that day. And then the final day to update your rosters, that's for grades 12 and 14. That's for students, with the TAR, the CWEC, and the ESAR in Infinite Campus. So that's on the 7th. So make sure that you have that done by October the 7th. And then, of course, October the 14th, that's when we had the ESAR, the qualification quiz. It actually opens. And then on the 23rd, the materials are going to be shipped, and that'll be for your first window. And then the 24th, you have that early access for the SAR or SRD. We have too many acronyms. That's for the districts, and they have to verify their rosters, and they have to compare it and make sure that they're correct. And of course, it will open. So that's as far as we're going to go. We don't want to go to November the 1st because we are going to be seeing you all again before then, and we don't want to overwhelm you and have you have a migraine. So those are the dates that are important. And I sent that out to all the directors when I received this, and I don't know if you received it from your directors or not, but if you do need to look at that, you can go into your KDE website, and it will be on the Kentucky Summative, I'll be all right, assessment program. So it'll have that there for you all to see. All you have to do is click on that.
Yeah, and I guess the big thing is right now is for them to be looking out for the ESSER and for the TAR. Is that correct, Brenda?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then making sure any changes that are needed to be put into Infinite Campus has been.
Yes, because you had that last day, I think it's September 29th. September 29th is the last day. So you have to make sure everything is in there is correct.
So that's just some of them. So we'll go back and let's talk about the Kentucky Dose Support Network, because as you guys know, when we go here, down here is those wonderful modules. So Brenda, you want to talk about those?
Okay, so modules have been changed. So, last year we had the same ones for years. Well, guess what? This year they are different. So now you go in and you have to do those, whatever modules you have to look for. I have actually tried to look it up to see which ones, like the principals take and, all that type of stuff. And I've not yet found a specific one saying which one you all take. So I'm not sure if you take all of those or if somebody has told you all, and then you can speak up and let me know. Won't hurt my feelings a bit. That saved me from having to run somebody down. But to see which ones are supposed to be taken, who takes what module. So they are different. They're not the same. So I hope nobody goes in there and tries to remember those answers from last year, because this year it will be different. It's a totally different modules for you to do.
Well, also remember that on our site, we have several different things going on, and we'll be posting all of these to our site. So you can go to the low incidence on our site and we'll start posting these. The other thing is the autism hours. All those that we have done in the past are here with the resources and materials that are linked. So don't forget that. That's important. for you too. There's also some things on alternate assessment on our site. So our low incidence for the next time is going to be October 16th. That'll be here before we know it. So we've got autism hour, you can see there, and then we've got low incidence alternate assessment here, and you can go here and it's got several links for you to be able to see different things that we've done, and plus some of the ones from the past that we've done. So that's there. Your math assessment site for resources is here. Your literacy one is here. So please take time to look at those. There's also some connecting the social studies standards is on here. I know how important those are. And then we've got different activities on here that you can look at too. So don't forget to look at that site. Okay. So our next we're going to talk about is strategies, and we're going to talk about visual schedules, what that needs to look like, systematic instruction, chaining tasks, and we're going to talk about simultaneous prompting, and then time delay. And of course, I could not leave out, because I am a math person at heart, CSA modeling for math. So we're going to make sure that those are some things that we have a discussion about. So visual schedules and what they look like. This right here at the bottom, this first, next, and then board is extremely important for our students. One, it gives them a good understanding of what I need to do first, what's going to happen next, and what I need to be looking toward. And then I always use that then as a reward. And I know Caitlin's been doing the 5 pennies, and then her student gets an award. She's been doing that, and that's part of the STAR program. Sometimes we have to break schedules down. So one of the things that you have to think about when we're working with schedules is the form of representation. Can they read? If they can't read, then we need to make sure they've got visuals. And many times those visuals need to be very specific. Like for my students, if we were reading out of a certain book, then that picture of that book would be on their schedule. If we had a center time, then a picture of the center that we went to, whether it was calendar time or whatever, that picture was on the board so that they saw that picture. They knew that was what was next and that was what was coming up. So sometimes we need very specific schedules that they can see. We need to think about that length of the schedule, just like Caitlin had just said. If my student's not ready for a big schedule and they can't handle a whole day schedule, I'm not going to use a whole day schedule. We may break it up to where it goes to their next break, and then the next part of their schedule will be the next thing until their next break. And so we just keep that up. And some kids can only handle that first, then next board. And also thinks about ways that you are going to have to manipulate that schedule, because sometimes things change. We've got a fire drill that's coming up, and we need to know about those things ahead of time. And then think about the location of the schedule. Is this going to be something the student's going to take with him? Because if you've got a student who walks out of the classroom, he may need to take that schedule with him so he understands that. And then the other thing, of course, we want to think about is how do we initiate the use of the schedule? For many of our students, like for one of mine, it was always hanging on the board, right? So it was always hanging on the board, and he just went over and he would pull everything off that he had completed. Now, sometimes if you weren't ready for that, like lunch, because he got some things done beforehand, he didn't want to wait on that lunch. He wanted to go right then because that was on their schedule, right? So we need to think about how we are going to use that schedule. How do we initiate that use? For some of our students, we have to walk them over to it. We have to show them. We have to say, hey, look, it is time for calendar. Let's go over to calendar. And then we walk over to calendar. When we're finished, we come back over and we take calendar off so that they understand that. Same thing with lunch, washing our hands, whatever it may be that they may need to do. We need to think about how are we going to be using that schedule. If the schedule is in front of them, let's make sure that, it's able for them to put the information back in a pocket somewhere, those kind of things. It's great to have that system available for them. So one of the things that we know about schedules and what they do is they strengthen our students' visual understanding, their visual strengths. And then another thing that they do is we start to have it's a communication system. It's for them to know what's happening. But more than anything else, it's going to broaden their interest in what they like and the things that they do, because we are, with a visual schedule, giving them feedback at all times. And then we need to think about what kind, like I said, the tool that they're going to use and the setting that they're going to be in. It also allows my student to be calm because it's predictable, right? we know what's going to happen next. And if they have that schedule and they know that I need to do this, this, and this, and then something's coming, it helps me to, know exactly what I need to do. And it reduces our behavior problems that we have. Especially, I don't know about you, but I know with me, fire alarms were a big issue. I also know that anytime we had a change like picture day, that's a big change for my kids, and that was going to be a disruption. But if they knew ahead of time, I always try to know ahead of time, so that I could warn my kids. There's going to be a bell. It's going to happen. We're going to have to go outside. We're going to come back in. Things are not going to change. So that gives them the understanding of, okay, I can predict it. I can prepare for it. I may need to get my, if they have issues with sound, I may need to get my earmuffs out, those kind of things. Just be prepared that we're going to walk outside and then we're going to walk back in so that they understand. And then, of course, it develops independence for our students. That's a big thing about it. It starts to develop their own independence, gives them a chance. So systematic instruction, when we think about systematic instruction, we think about number one, it's research-based. Number two, we're going to use this anytime we're doing a skill or presenting any kind of new content. It's very guided. We are always providing corrective, immediate feedback during this. And we get to a point to where we have independent practice. Now, independent practice may not happen during the first couple of times of systematic direct instruction, but it's going to be very frequent, and we're going to review it. We think about this with when we do systematic instruction. There's different ones that we want to do. We think about how we can scaffold all of our learning. So we think about, what do they need to do first? What do they need to do next? What's the steps that are going to be involved that they're going to have to do? So I'm going to relate this back to math because that's where I'm at. But if I'm teaching my students what addition is, I'm going to, first of all, talk to them about just counting the objects, and then how we add objects in. And then we're going to talk about the sum, and we're going to get to that point. We are not going to throw all of that out at one time. The first day we may just count objects, right? We're going to count objects. Then the next day I want to say, okay, now we're going to add some objects. And so we add 3. We're not even working on getting to the sum. We just got the first objects out. And now we've got 3 more objects out. We've got some objects out. Now we got 4 more objects out. Now we're going to work the next day on counting to get to the sum. So we get the objects out for the first symbol, which may be 4. And then we say, okay, and now we're going to add some more. So we're adding 3, and we put out 3 more objects. And now I say, now we're going to count all the objects together. And so they will do that. And like I said, that's very systematic, getting them to understand what that symbol means. We're adding some more. We're adding some more. We're always talking about adding some more. And so that's what systematic direct instruction, if I was relating it to addition in math. So the next one that we're going to talk about is chaining. Now, we all know that chaining is not a task analysis at all. Chaining is about either forward or backward, and it is a total task chaining. So it's from beginning to end, or from end to beginning, depending on your student. And so if we're working with chaining, again, we're looking at sequence of events that's going to happen. We're talking that the learner does not move into the second step until the first step is truly mastered. So they have to really be good at that first step. So you break down that task to where you know first step, second step, third step. And in backwards chaining, we look at the sequences taught beginning with the last step. If I want them to line up at the door, where are we going to start? The door. We go to the door. We go to the door. Then we move back and we teach them to walk across the floor correctly, walk across the floor correctly. And then we talk about pushing in, getting up and pushing in their chair. So we're getting them to the point of where they need to be. How are they supposed to line up? So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about chaining. Now, if you're wanting to get a student to do certain things like their homework here that we've got on here, and we've got some extra practice, and we want to make sure that they do that. How do we make sure they get their homework home? So we start talking about that, and then we move on to, okay, when you get it home, what do you need to do? You give it to mom, right? And we practice this. And then what did we practice doing? Some of the steps in our homework so that they understand that this is what they're supposed to do. So that's one that we've got on for chaining. Brenda, do you want to add anything else to that?
No, but I think that was great because it does represent that CRA model in a way when you look at it.
It does. Concrete, semi-concrete, and abstract, right? We've got to do all those steps. So simultaneous prompting, which is our next one. This one here, I felt like, one, this keeps down the errors. Like the student doesn't have a chance to really make an error. And reading words, doing a certain task, counting out numbers, those kind of things. This is also important for our students. And there's lots of spoken reinforcement that we're going to be doing. So if I look through this one and I give a student, let's say, a word card, and that we're working on maybe the fry words. And so I will actually say the word, and I may even spell out the word. And then I'll say, okay, now you say the word. And if they miss it, I'll say the word again. Then I'll say, you say the word. And so we'll keep on doing that. So simultaneous prompting is prompting that results in correct answers 100% of the time, right?
You know, Stephanie, I've noticed that this is not being used as much as it should be, because it's a great way to teach a child, because like you say, you know, you're not giving them any room for error because you're helping that child through that. But I've noticed that it's not used as much as it should be.
I use this a lot with my students when we were identifying numerals or identifying two, give me two. And I'd only have two in my hand, right? So they had to, give me two, you gave me two, give me two back. Look, 1, 2, yay, you gave me two. And so we just continuously done that. And then when we got 2 down, then we would move on to 3. And then we would do that and I would, at some point, we'll put in an option for them to have an error, right? But it's give me 2. And then if they didn't give me 2, they only gave me 1, then I would go, look, 2, 1, 2. And I would take 1 from their hand too to show them, or I would put 2 in their hand and we would count so they could feel it. So yeah, giving that simultaneous prompting is very important for our students, especially our students who are very low level that need that extra time. Okay, so for time delay, there are different types of time delay. There's constant time delay, and then of course there is progressive time delay. And constant time delay uses a fixed amount of time, which is always used giving the instruction and then giving the prompt, right? And then we have progressive time delay, which is a procedure designed for errorless or nearly errorless learning, to where we provide the student with a prompt and then we provide them with pretty much the ability to engage in only a correct answer, right? So very similar to simultaneous prompting, but guess what? We give them a little bit of time to give us an answer. You should be doing both, or you should be doing several different ones, maybe even at the same time. And that's fine too, because one student may need one thing and another student may need another, and that's perfectly fine. So in this one, teacher puts 3 pictures on the floor, prompts to point to the apple, and immediately shows the student, that's constant, immediately shows the apple, right? And so if the student doesn't touch the apple, then immediately corrects the student to actually touch the apple. Now with progressive, I only have maybe 2 items down, right? And I've got an apple and I've got a banana, and I'll say, oh, can you show me the apple? And the student, I give them just a minute. And if they don't, then I give them the correct answer. But I may sit there and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I may count to 10. It depends on the student's working memory ability, because we know that plays into effect on how well a student can process what you're asking them. Because if their verbal processing is not good, you got to give them a few minutes to be able to process what you just asked for, because they're still trying to catch up on, is it an apple I'm looking for? Is it a banana I'm looking for? What did she say? And sometimes I will even go to the point to say, give me the apple, and then say, what did I ask for? And if the student doesn't respond apple, then I'll say, I'm looking for the apple. And that gives them another prompt, right? Just so that they can go on and they can do that. And so we want to gradually increase that delay in between times, and we are going to control the prompting again, how many times we actually ask for things, those kind of things, how many items are there. That's all important for us. So we want to make sure, though, that they have accuracy as often as possible. We could do this with cards. We could do this with problems. We're going to give a stimulus afterwards. So whatever they are that they like, whether it's playing with Play-Doh, I know that's one that's not good because students tend to eat it, but it can be one if a student that likes it for sensory. But when wrong answers are provided, then right then, simultaneously, we are going to give them a correct answer. So we're going to take that ability for them to have, a correct answer right then, corrective feedback. And so that's so important for our students. We're going to have independent time for them to practice, but we're also going to make sure that they have corrective feedback at the very beginning. So doing that kind of thing and moving forward with that. So next one that we're going to go to, we've moved through these really quickly today, is the CSA model. Now I could talk for a week on this one. Not gonna lie. So this is concrete, semi-concrete, and abstract. That's what it stands for. Or you're going to see the CRA model, which Brenda mentioned just a few minutes ago, which is concrete representations and abstract. And so either way you do this, that's fine. But one of the things that we want to definitely talk about is the concrete part. Our kids need to touch it, right? They need to touch it. They need to move it. They need to manipulate through it. So some of the things that you could use for concrete are counters, of course, Unifix cubes. I like Unifix cubes because they're bigger and students get that pincher motion that they need, right? Now, most of you can't see me, but I'm trying to do a pincher motion because they're needing to grasp. That also helps with writing, by the way. And then, of course, algebra blocks for those kids who are older, and rulers, tape measures, measuring tape, however you want to call that. Bead strings are great for our students to be able to do and manipulate. And you can get bigger beads so that if they have trouble with that movement, then they can use the bigger beads. But those little pony beads really get that pincher grasp going. And that is so wonderful for our kids to have. I love the semi-concrete, and that's where we really start putting it into the brain. So we want to hold on to that. And so we want to have them doing tally marks. And it's so hard for our kids to understand 5 for tally marks. I'm so proud of our kids when they see that and they automatically start counting by 5s and then can count on, because that's a really hard skill to get. So tally marks, using dots. It's fine for our kids to use dots, maybe using some different shapes such as squares or triangles or something. So that's fine. Also, the semi-concrete needs to be drawn out on the paper. Open number line is a great way to start doing this because they make those jumps on that open number line. But I'm going to say this much: semi-concrete cannot be always a virtual manipulative. So I know our kids love the iPad. I do, but try not to do mathematics or any other that's a virtual if you're trying to get that semi-concrete, because there's something about that movement of the hand that it really helps to put it in the brain, and they so need that. It's so important for our kids. Like I said, those manipulatives that they have, whatever it may be. Chastity uses a car, and so she uses a car, and they do the sounds of the word by moving the car across the word, right? And that's a wonderful way to get them to start sounding out words. She also uses Unifix cubes just like I do. And she uses Unifix cubes, and you could actually write on those Unifix cubes letters if you're planning on if you had a bunch of them. I'm just saying, if you went, you scrounged up some and you had a bunch of them, I would use the Unifix cubes definitely in my, and write some letters on them and have them to put those together, so that they could put together the word cat. They could put together the word banana. Whatever their words may be, they could put those together and be able to see them, because that is true movement that's going to help them to do that. And then if you wanted to, they could break them apart into the syllables. So that would be a great way to use those Unifix cubes right there in reading. That would be a good manipulative for them to have. But another thing that, like I said, an open number line is a good way to get our students to work with what's that semi-concrete look like, and what does that look like linear for our kids, and how big that is. So all of those are important.
Well, Stephanie taught me the other day I'm 63 years old, and she actually taught me the other day how to do the division with like 5, 10s, and 100s place. You know, she multiplied it out by the divisor and that type of stuff to get close to the number. I had never seen that done before, but it was interesting, and it's a quick way to teach a child.
So this is our information here at KVEC. We have Miss Dion Bates, who's our implementation lead. And so if you need something from her email address is here. Miss Brenda Combs, who is with us today, just love it. She is our due process and transition lead, and that is her email. Miss Chastity Craft, if you need anything reading or writing, please contact her. Mr. Will Cayeton does all of our transition, and he's just wonderful about transition. So there's his email. Of course, if you need anything that deals with numbers, I'm your lady. So please contact me. Doug Smith is our behavior consultant, and he would love to talk to you. And Mr. Denny Palme does due process too, and he can help you with any of those IEP goals and that kind of stuff. So like I said, please contact us if you need us. But Brenda, do you have anything else to add today?
I don't have anything else to add, but I just want to make sure that you are getting those alternate assessment emails from your directors. If not, please shoot me an email and let me know so I can send that to you all, to individual people, because it's important to have all that information.
Okay, Miss Brenda, I think we're done. Doug can finish.
Are we finished?
Yep, we're finished.
All right. So thank y'all and bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
Goodbye.
thanks for being there. Bye.